From Ragusa to Venice and now to Florence, Braincrack's trilogy of games finishes in a city where you will schmooze, flirt, eavesdrop on scandalous topics and try and influence your way into the higher echelons of society. The first thing to say about this game is the beautiful production, even at this prototype stage. When I tell you that the worst element, in my view, are the 3D printed meeples, then you know you've got a fantastic looking prototype. These carriages that move around the city are wonderful and you have no doubt about where they are. There are some colour matching problems at this stage, but because the prototype's so good, they've been picked up and the publisher is already fixing those for the final product. It's a wonderful production, and in many ways there's not much to it. The biggest set of components will be the wooden parts, the wooden meeples and tokens that you have, and these wonderful little presents. And card-wise, there's not that much in there. Setup is fast, and there are some really lovely, genius elements. And one of those is this wheel that rotates and kind of tells you what's happening, or it gives you a little bit of advance warning. And there are elements on this that will be randomised each game, particularly how much time you will recover and where the carriages are going next. So you'll get advance notice of that, but you'll only have 2 turns to prepare. And that's really important because each carriage scores in a different way. The player boards also, even at this stage, you'd be happy with these in a finished game. They are dual layered with a spinner, so they don't even wobble. Like normally spinner ones wobble. These are got the same layer on the back and they keep track of your time, give you an overview of the moves. So how will you be using your time in this game? Well, Florence is an area control game that doesn't give itself away as an area control game immediately. In fact, even after having played it a few times, the area control is kind of hidden away under layers of theme and different actions. You're going to be choosing actions using your allotted time. You have 12 hours of time at the start of the game. And each round you will recover an amount between 2 to 9 from the board, and the first person to pass will get 2 extra time. And then if people have passed and other people are still going, every time it comes back to their turn, they will get an hour of time. But time is very hard to come by, particularly in the lower count games, so you need to make every move count. For your moves, you can put out your little, I need to remember their names, the lowest member of the family. What is he, like I can't remember. Or you'll upgrade your little fella to a Donna, and then there's a big one as well, which is even higher than Donna. But the only way these upgraded ones can come out is if you upgrade them from the little guy on his knees. You can move ones that are on the board around the board. You can give gifts. If you're by the carriage, you can give a gift. And a gift gives you a number of things. It gives you a scandal card from that colour. Scandal cards generally give you, not game-breaking powers, but cheaper alternatives to doing things. And sometimes there's rule-breaking powers, like normally when you queue up at a location, you queue up in the order you arrive, but if someone of a greater status than you arrives, they will jump to the front of the queue. Now, if you have a guard there, which is one of the things you can do through giving gifts, your guard can change that order. So having your guards out on the board, which is done through giving gifts, is really important. Guards can also act as spies on the brag cards, which are in different locations every game, and that means that when a carriage passes through that area or finishes on that area, you're going to get another scandal card. And guards can also go on the routes that you can move through the city, making those routes cheaper for you to use. They cost less, and if other people use them, you're going to get some points. You can brag, which we just talked about. Bragging involves the cards in each location. As long as you have a family member there, you can brag and you will fulfill the goal to a degree. So this one is for all your family members in that column. The city's broken into a 3x3 grid, essentially. And for each family member in that column, you will get 3 points. And next to the card on the board is printed the kind of boundaries. So if you get 0 to 6 points, you go on the bottom, 7 to 12, you go in the middle, and 13 plus, you go on the top. And that can be really important for blocking out other people. Say someone's about to score that card, you think they are, you can nip in there and score that first. Even though you might not score as many points as you may have, you can bump them down on that scandal order. After everyone has passed, the carriage will move. The colour is dictated by the dial, and that carriage will move all around to a predetermined location that is marked by its colour. So you know where it's going to end up. At every location it passes, it will score for the person who rules that area or controls that area. That's the person at the front of the queue. So remember, if you play a higher ranked family member, they will jump to the front of the queue, or they will jump behind a family member of that type from another colour. They will score kind of minimal points. It's 1, 2 or 3 depending on which stage of the game you're on. And then you will score for the queue itself. Red simply scores each person for the position they are in the queue. So the first person will get the most points, second get less points, and so on and so forth. The pink carriage scores people in the same way, but only if they're of higher ranks. So the lowly family member, I'm going to see if I can say, I think it was in pink where you could upgrade them. The Bellissimo or something like that. Not the Donna or the big chap with holding a torch. They score, only those characters score. And then the blue carriage gives you a chance to, if you control an area with the most people there, you can spend time to get loads of points, and that's a really big one, but you have to have the time to use. This game, Florence, has really blown me away in a similar way that Ragusa blew me away. I love it. I think that if you're looking for a medium weight game that is interesting, that yes, it does have that elements of area control, and there are aggressive elements. One of the scandal cards lets you swap your family members to the front of the queue. You can pop a guard in there and change the order. So there is that kind of aggressive area control nature of it, but it's all changeable. It's not fixed, because at some point that area will become a dud and you'll need to move people around and change where they are. And on some games I've seen people not put many people out first because that costs loads, but just put them in strategic locations and then build up, have the time to do more stuff, while the other players put loads of people out, but then they haven't got time for a few rounds, and the best way to get time is to pass. So it's full of interesting decisions. I love games where passing is a really important decision. I love The King is Dead, and passing is a really important decision on this. Yes, that does mean you'll be sitting there, but every time that people don't pass, again, you're going to be getting more and more. So it kind of feels rewarding to be efficient with your time, and you know that in the next round, you're going to get more time to do stuff. Now, you can never go beyond 12, so if you've passed and you get up to 12 points because everyone else is still taking turns, up to 12 times, then you're going to start getting points then. So even late game, especially because the last carriage to move is the blue one, which you have to have time left to be able to take advantage of this. And it gives a lot of points in the last round. I think it's 30 if you control an area and spend 5 time. So you're looking at you plan that right, you're looking at 60 points, but you won't be able to do much in the round before, so you have to prepare for it. Now, over the course of 9 rounds, this does not equate to a lot of sitting around. You're going to pass maybe 1 or 2 3 maximum, I would say, times where you're the first person to pass and you're waiting. Obviously, there'll be a bit more waiting the more players you have, and I've only been able to kind of play 2-player and 2-handed, so you know, these times dictate that. But even when I've played both sides, I really love it. I forget that I'm doing the other thing, and I'm like, right, what's the best thing to do here? Is it to screw over that other player, or is it to invest in my own stuff? And you get used to this kind of cadence of the moving of carriages. Right, Reg just moved. That means I've got 3 rounds before I need to think about that again. Can I set up my people so that they will get the most from the red moving, but also the other 2 moving as well? Because often they move over each other. And then there's the brags, which change where you want to be as well, because you want to be in an area where you can claim some points for brags. Brags can get you loads of points. This brag could get you 20 points. This one even more. Brags are really awesome, and even though there's only 9 in this prototype, it will be easy to add more, and they're randomized each time anyway, so they go to different locations. I think there's a nice level of randomness, which creates replayability. I like the differences between the carriages, not only in the points they score, but in how they utilise the guards. I think all of the guard utilisation is brilliant. There feels like there's very little waste in this game. There's very little fiddliness or that sort of thing that doesn't need to be there. It can be, you know, moving it round and then having, if you've got to move, I guess the most is 8 spaces away. That's going to take a while scoring everyone, but you're never usually going to score every space because there won't be people there. And when you're scoring it, people are invested because these score markers can zoom up the board. They can, even from the first turn, they can seemingly zoom around the board. And you have 200 point markers, and you're gonna need them. You're gonna be going around the score track, and that feels good. If you do not like Euro games, then you already know this isn't for you. If you're a fan of Euro games, if you're looking for a midweight game that actually is explainable to newish players to the hobby. I'm just looking at this and thinking I could explain this to my wife. Now, what would she have a problem with? She'd have her problems would be with the iconography on the cards on the board and just kind of visually passing the board. Yeah, I guess that might be you kind of have to zoom into a quadrant to really take it into account, and basically the way to do it is to look at the paths, which kind of cut them up for the most part, apart from kind of this one. They kind of cut up the areas, but it's not always, you've got a top, middle and bottom essentially, and sometimes in the heat of the game you look and you think, oh, and you might make a mistake, but I never find it that much of a problem, but I could see a new player just being overwhelmed by the amount of stuff on the board. Now, I remember with Ragusa, Braincrack did something where they put a clearer board on the back, with the grids over the artwork, which would be a real shame because this artwork looks brilliant. I don't know if there's a cause for that here, but that's the main areas where I could see there being problems for newer players. The cards themselves that give you powers are all spelled out. You get a secret card at the start that just kind of makes you think about your locations more, and you can get 35 points from that. I totally forgot about these a number of times, but basically the more family members you have in 4 of the locations at the end of the game, the more points you're going to get. And I definitely could have done that today when I just kind of quickly two-handed it to refresh myself. So there, another point of variety. I've done rubbish at not saying my opinions today, but that's because, again, like Ragusa, it's just won me over. And I'll be honest, Venice didn't do the same to me. Venice was a little bit heavier. It had my brain scratching a bit more. There was a little bit more fiddliness. I still liked it an awful lot, but this has come in at a kind of just that perfect weight of games that I really like, that I could explain relatively quickly to most people, and and have a good crunchy session. So yeah, if you like any of those things, this is definitely a Kickstarter worth checking out. I will be backing it myself. I think it's brilliant. Again, you know, if you don't like Eurogames, you're not going to like this. Is there anything lucky? I mean, the cards you get, but you have to play for those anyway, so it's not like they're coming out anytime. You get to see the routes, so you might have a bit of luck with future routes, but you know which stops have already been made, so you've got that percentage anyway. If something's not been stopped at, it's going to be stopped at. And it's not just about the stops, it's about every route that someone travels through as well. Yeah, I absolutely, I forgot that rule today. Knew I forgot there was another way to get time. You can discard cards to get time. Oh, I would have done that. Yeah, so you can get time through cards as well, through scandal cards, which, again, if you put guards out, if you put brags out, you're going to get loads of scandal cards, so that's awesome. Yeah, luck just wasn't an overwhelming factor in the game for me. I think Braincrack have done an excellent job in this trilogy. This is probably the standout for me over Ragusa. Ragusa was great. I really liked its speed of play. Again, this one not quite as fast as Ragusa, but still quite nippy, surprisingly so. And this one hits. It's kind of like the midway point in terms of complexity between the other two, and it hits all the bits that I like. I know there was some criticism about Ragusa about the kind of automatic first plays. I didn't necessarily agree with that 100%, but here it's a good puzzle. It's area control that doesn't feel aggressively like area control, although it still retains those elements, and it's action selection with action points represented by time. If you like any of those things, you are going to have a lot of fun here. That's me gushing like a total professional in a preview. So there you go. That is Florence. Thanks very much for watching. Do remember to join us on Twitch. We are Pads and Pawns at Twitch, where we will be streaming video games and board games more and more frequently, we hope. See you next time.